Palante Harlem. What's that? That's an organization, and the organization's mission is to reduce poverty and advocate for safe housing for New York City tenants. They have many resources for tenants, including some very dedicated staff attorney. Elcia Vasquez walked us through some of the programs and the help they offer New York City tenants. Elcia Vasquez, un placer. Thank you for being with us here on Tiempo. This is so fantastic because I know what you guys do and how critical it is. Just give me a quick history lesson on Palante Harlem.
Well, Palante is grassroots. That's the amazing thing about Palante, meaning that I was affected by the neglect of a landlord.
Sure.
And I decided to not wait for other people to come out to help us. But we basically were grassroots. We organized ourselves.
Yep.
And then we found a need, and here we are today, helping the community residents since 2008.
How big is your staff?
We have eight folks on staff. We have a legal services team. We have attorneys. We have housing specialists. And, we're here educating our community residents, empowering the Latino community on how to assert the right to live in habitable conditions, to assert the rights to succession rights. We're here empowering and educating our community residents.
And before we jump into the details of how you're doing that, Elcia, educate me, if you would, on who provides your funding. I mean, how do you guys keep moving forward?
Yeah, well, little by little, we've been growing.
Yep.
So we're getting small allocations from the New York City Council, from the state Senate. The local elected officials have been supporting us.
Yes.
And then we've had some money from foundations as well, including the New York Women Foundation.
And in your estimation, is that a recognition of the work that you're doing, the effectiveness of how you're doing it, and the need that there is?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Each one of those organizations says, okay, Palante Harlem, we see what they do. It's important what they do. Let's support what they do financially.
Exactly. And I should also mention, Joe, that our members, our own clients also support the organization, not with a lot of money, but every penny counts.
Okay.
So we have the support of the community as well. The same people that we're assisting them, although we don't charge them, they donate to the organization.
Let's walk through some of the services and things that you provide that provide assistance to tenants who are going through some tough times with some rather perhaps negligent landlords. And that's not all landlords, but it's a few. So when you say long-term technical assistance, ¿en qué manera? How so? What is that?
Well, the way that we do it is really, again, is educating. At Palante, we have this thing that we say you have to pay it forward. So we'll educate one resident. That resident will educate the neighbor. We do our tenant organizing. But the long-term assistance means that we assist them with lease renewals, basically long-term. It's not just one issue that they might have. So it could be repairs, it could be lease renewals, it could be just analyzing to see their rents are legal. But again, it's also educating them about the rights, because the Latino community especially, we tend to believe that we don't have rights. Yes. To live in habitable conditions. So we push that over to the tenants, and we continue to educate them, whether it be in person, whether it be doing the one-on-one, as well as the Zoom Thursdays that we also delivered every Thursday.
Housing benefits, such as
SCREE and DREE. Those are housing benefits that if you're disabled, if you're senior, you could actually help you freeze your rent to the level when you apply. So any new increases do not really affect the tenant. Okay. And the landlords get it in a form of a tax break through the city of New York.
Do you find yourself, Elcia, that most tenants don't even know that these benefits exist, that they're out there?
Very, very true. They don't. Surprisingly enough, and there's been a lot of outreach, but the issue is that, folks are not watching TV and they're not reading. So we really have to go on the ground to really educate, go to senior centers, for example, to teach them about these benefits as well. You just mentioned what was my next question, outreach. How much of your time is spent getting out into the community, into the tenant associations to say, aquí estamos, we're here to help you? Well, every Saturday we do outreach. Saturdays, you don't see us here in the office, but we're actually on the field, attending to some building or doing, walkthroughs, because we do walkthroughs to look at properties when they're when they're becoming dilapidated. But outreach is a big component of our work. Yep. We partner with a lot of organizations, senior centers, as well as actually, bringing Palante to the ground. So we do, events al fresco. We bring our office and we go in front of a building and we plant our tables, our computers, and help them fill out applications on hand because, computer literacy is an issue that affects the Latino community as well.
Okay.
So we do that quite often, Joe.
When we come back on Tiempo, more from Palante Harlem, a community organization that empowers New York City tenants. Elsia, thank you so much for staying with us. A few more questions before we let you go about Palante Harlem and the mission and the things that you do to help tenants facing some tough times. I wanted to ask you real quick about tenant associations. I mean, that's where you came from. That's how this started. There are effective tenant associations, and then there are those not so effective. What's the difference between the two?
The difference is that you have to look at the leaders when they actually come out and become leaders, as opposed to just saying, we're just going to appoint a board of let's say Tenants Association, a president, vice president,
Yes.
and just doing it on the fly. You have to wait for emerging leaders as you assist the tenants in the building. So when we come to a building, it's not just form a tenant association, we get to meet them and then we get to tell them the roles. And then you will find inside the building these tenants that they would emerge to be leaders on their own.
But take it the next step. What therefore does an effective leader do?
An effective leader sacrifices a little bit. They have to help work with the tenant, sometimes working with people. There's different folks, for different strokes per se. So effective leadership is really those folks that they want to work with everyone and they have a common cause. It's not just their apartment in per se, it's about the entire building and the well-being of the entire, all their neighbors.
I think it really does mean setting the needs of others ahead, sometimes ahead of the needs of yourself.
Exactly.
But that's in a leader. We're coming through this pandemic, hopefully most of it behind us right now. I know that created a huge impact on the lives of tenants, many of them who faced evictions. There was an eviction moratorium, which I don't think lasts anymore. But how did the pandemic make things worse for so many tenants facing difficult times from negligent landlords?
Well, food insecurity and rent burden.
Yeah.
A lot of folks lost their jobs. We know that at no fault of their own. So the biggest issue, I think, for the community was how to get on a platform where they can apply to get these rent subsidies, this emergency rental assistance that the state and the federal government were giving out. So what we did, Joe, was really focus our efforts in helping those folks who were not behind on the rent at no fault of their own.
Yes.
We were helping them apply for these subsidies. And we're proud to say that we have been able to not only assist the tenant individually, but also provide them the rental assistance that they needed to pay their landlord and thus prevent the eviction.
Do you find yourself also working with the landlords who recognized that it was in their best interest to have this assistance come through so the rent could be paid and their investments in their properties could continue?
Absolutely. In fact, in the Latino community, we partner directly with these landlords, and the landlords were sending their tenants to Palante. So it was one of those collaborative efforts that we put together, and we're very happy that it worked out. And, it put some money back into the building that these tenants were living, and it also allowed the tenant to sleep at night, because imagine when you owe $54,000 in rent and because you lost your job at no fault of your own. So yeah, we're very proud of that.
Just really quickly, is a side benefit of all that collaboration a better relationship between the landlord and the tenant?
Yes, absolutely. Because the tenants that applied, the landlords understood that they were just not hiding behind the scenes and wanting to make them whole.
And they're not heartless, at least not all of them, so for sure. Really quickly, we're almost out of time. I know evictions continue to be a big issue, if you will, facing many tenants. What do they need to know quickly in terms of the rules of eviction?
The biggest thing is do not leave the apartment. Do not leave the apartment just because the landlord said you have to leave. People need to understand that only the courts can do that.
Okay.
And if you are facing eviction, they should call Palante. They should call Palante. We will assist them, we will educate them, and bring them the right services that they need. Another key thing is that in the event that the super locks them out of their apartment, they should understand that they can call 911, and the cops will force the super to change the lock back and let them back in their apartments.
What is it that you guys can do in terms of eviction that can provide immediate assistance to someone who thinks they got to walk out the door tomorrow?
Well, our legal team will get involved immediately. And usually we would either directly contact the landlord directly or contact the landlord's attorney directly to rectify the situation.
Right. Y finalmente, we should point out all of your services, all of your help, and all of your assistance available both in English and Spanish.
Exactly.
Qué bueno. Elcia, un placer. Thank you so much for not just being on Tiempo, but for doing what you're doing. There are so many tenants out there that are facing tough times throughout the pandemic, and any help, any assistance, any guidance that they can get is so appreciated and so helpful. Give me the organization's website real quick.
It's www.palanteharlem.org.
I'm guessing I click on that and I'll find information, contact, todo eso.
Our contact information, resource center, or toolbox, and it's quite updated very timely. So just go to the website and you'll get information as well.
Elcia Vázquez, un placer. Gracias. Palante Harlem. Palante todo el mundo. Muchísimas gracias. Thanks for spending part of your Sunday with us. We do appreciate it. I'm Joe Torres. We will see you once again next week for another edition of Tiempo.